You're listening to the Miracles in Meat podcast. I'm Shane Thibodeau, a fourth-generation butcher at one of the oldest meat markets in the world. My great-grandfather started this business by slaughtering one cow or pig at a time and selling the cuts door-to-door on horse and buggy. Today, our products are enjoyed across the globe. I will attempt to give you some insight as to how we got here and explore the challenges we've had along the way. At Bourgeois, our mission is to preserve our heritage generation after generation through legendary Cajun flavors and the development of relationships, not customers. Since 1891, Bourgeois has maintained age-old culinary traditions that fuel the South Louisiana lifestyle. Over the past 133 years, our Cajun products have gained global recognition, and for tens of thousands of folks around the world, the Bourgeois Cajun Lady logo is a symbol of home. Today, the fourth-generation butchers sit at the 9-foot maple block with loyal customers to discuss the adventures, skills, and passions that guide each of their legacies. These conversations will become priceless resources for future generations of any industry. This is our way of maintaining the spirit, purpose, and traditions of our lost arts in a world of change. 133 years, 4 generations. We're just getting started. All right, next up we got some questions. If you go to our website, bourgeoismeatmarket.com, you click on Miracles in Meat podcast at the top. That's the page that has all of our podcast episodes. Keep scrolling. You're going to see a form that says submit a question to the podcast. You can submit a question, comment, concern, feedback, something like that. You can even upload an audio file and do a little something like that. We'll either read it or we'll play it on a future episode. So if you didn't know that was there, go check it out. Send us something. We'd love to get these questions because a lot of the questions we take for granted, and we think everyone knows the answers to them. But I guess it's obvious that we don't do a good job pushing our info out there. So this is a little bit for fun and a little bit to help people out. So send them in. All right, we got Woody Falgoust and me. I'm Shane, and we got Bo, and this is the Miracles of Meat podcast, and we're starting it off. Mr. Woody, this is how we start off all these podcasts, and if we don't start off this way, this is how we end it, or we put it in here at some point. Tell me your earliest memory of the meat market.
My earliest memory would be coming in here. I say in here, we're in the gray market right now, in your old market in Trevor. I can remember going in there as a kid and probably buying some boudin, but I also can remember my dad bringing his deer meat in there at some point when I was very young. My best memories probably are from when I'd buy my own boudin or gratons or I don't know, a pork shoulder or whatever it was, or bring my own deer meat in there. That's probably the best, is when I get my own deer meat back from y'all. It's like Christmas all over again, right?
You bring us a lot of deer.
I'd like to bring you more.
Where are you hunting at?
Well, right now, primarily in Beaver Creek, Mississippi, which is equidistant between Liberty and Centerville, Mississippi, and Clinton, Louisiana, right across the state line.
Centerville's above Liberty?
It's
so
west,
maybe?
It's west of Liberty.
West of Liberty. Okay.
That's pretty close to us, actually.
Yeah.
We're in Liberty.
So, again, if you're going up Plank Road, right, from Baton Rouge, and you pass through the town of Clinton, you go next to the courthouse and all those historic structures, whatever that highway turns into. I don't even know the number. I just call it Plank Road, right? Mm-hmm. But then eventually you get to the state line, and we're not far past the state line. And if you go another 15 minutes, you get to Liberty. If you go the other direction toward the west, 15 minutes, you get to Centerville. Vines, one of y'all's brethren in the meat market business, right? That's a big meat market.
I've been there. That's a cool place.
Good buffet there.
I never ate at the... Have you been there?
I haven't seen that one. I've just seen the one in Macomb.
Okay. That's a cool spot.
Yeah, it is.
I went to try out some of they got like some little jerkies and meat sticks and summer sausage and all kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think there's, no offense, Vines, if you're listening, but I don't think you're as good as Bourgeois. But
of course.
Not bad for the state of Mississippi, right?
All right, you mentioned boudin. is maybe your favorite product. But what else? What you liking if you stop at the market these days and you're not bringing deer meat in? What you getting?
Oh man, we always call them gratons, but I think y'all call them pig and nuggets. Those are addictive. If we bring it to the office, which we're going to have to bring some on our way back today, of course, everyone just razzoos on them, right? just eats till they can't eat anymore. I know maybe my cardiologist doesn't recommend that for me, considering my family history of heart disease, but boy, they're delicious. And I like your flank steaks, that are already marinated, or I know y'all can marinate them if they're not already marinated. I just really like what you do with the deer meat. The way that you can take beef or pork and mix. I got one daughter who, even though my daughters are grown and don't live with us anymore, one daughter has a pork allergy, right? So
how's that? How's that work?
Yeah, how does a human being have a pork allergy?
Is she lying, maybe?
Yeah,
maybe she's lying.
Maybe she is. Maybe she's just offended. Bacon offends her. I don't know, but no, poor thing. She really loved bacon and pork products. But so your beef and deer burgers or ground meat, whether it's in a spaghetti or a burger or tomato or whatever you do at home with it, a chili, right? I mean, that's honestly just as good as when you put the pork with it because it's different. I find the flavor is slightly different, right? So I really enjoy just your ground meat, your sausage, of course, your deer sticks and all that. That's all great. But whatever you all do with your mixes, like the sausage, my wife, and I'll go ahead and tell you, I've tried other local processors before. Because being a local lawyer, right, you kind of patronize all your clients a little bit. And I've tried those guys, and I can eat any of it. I enjoy all of it. But my wife will only eat bourgeois. So guess what? That means the last few years, it only comes to bourgeois, right?
Excellent.
Because she doesn't like sausage. She didn't like it from the store. But she'll eat y'all sausage, right? And the ground meat, honestly, the way that y'all do your beef and your pork burgers now, I mean, it is better than anything I can buy at the grocery store, any kind of beef.
Appreciate
Tastes
that.
better.
We think so, also. We think the same. What about like cooking styles? What are you doing at home, or what's your favorite way to cook? How were you taught to cook? Who taught you how to cook?
So my dad would have taught me how to cook, the grilling and the smoking and things of that nature. I don't do as much gumbo cooking and things. He would have taught me about gumbos and stews and all of that too. He used to make a squirrel head gumbo, right? His uncles were all big squirrel hunters, and they had a houseboat near Chafalaya when he was growing up, and that was one of the big dishes after the squirrel hunt would be
squirrel head gumbo. That's
the
first.
The head's literally floating in the gumbo, and then you pop the top of the head and you eat the brain out of the squirrel head because the broth gets in. It's delicious, right? Now I hadn't had a squirrel head gumbo in years because in part my wife won't let me cook that in the kitchen at the house, right? So she is such a good cook that I rarely, other than breakfast, cook something inside. So if I get to cook, it's outside on the grill, right? And, a good deer backstrap that you've marinated and maybe wrapped in bacon, maybe stuffed with a little Swiss cheese. I mean, it's hard to beat that, right? Honestly, y'all, just smelling y'all's sausages on the grill, I mean, that's enough for me. I could probably shut it down, right? I don't need to eat at that point because it smells so good. It's kind of like walking up to the market today and smelling, what are y'all smoking out back? What is that wood?
Tree wood.
Tree wood. Might be a mulberry tree, huh? Who knows what it is?
Cypress, some plywood, whatever we got.
I mean, how about some OSB board? Nothing wrong with a little smoked OSB, huh?
The arms from Lazy Boy.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you that Lazy Boy wood smoking out there was smelled pretty good. I didn't need to eat anything once I got in here. I just smelled it.
It's mostly Busquios.
Yeah, mostly.
Is that right? Right? Well, I'm told a Busquio is like a young goat or something, right? It's just the younger the better. Yeah.
All right. Other than cooking, What are some of your other passions? Let's say outside of work.
Well, I don't hunt and fish as much as I used to as a kid and as much as I used to as a young man, but I still enjoy it, right? I guess in part because my girls now live away in D.C. and New York, and there's just other things going on. I don't do that as much as, say, my father did when I was growing up, but I do enjoy that. There's something about fishing, the peace of fishing, that I can't find that level of peace anywhere else, right? Mm-hmm. But of course, fishing's a lot of trouble too, with a boat and rods and reels and bait and all that. So I find myself going with a guide more often now. I hate to say that. I feel like I'm cheating, right? I'm not being a good Cajun going with a guide, but I love that. And really, I guess because my work does consume me. My main other passion is writing, right? I love to write. That's the problem with that is it's not very physical, but I enjoy writing books.
Yeah. Are you writing currently?
I am. I'm working on a novel right now.
Come on.
I've finished the draft of it. I've not published a novel. I've published 3 nonfiction books, but I haven't published a fictional book yet.
When did you pick up that interest?
Oh gosh, ever since my grandmother read to me as a kid. Ever since I developed a love of reading, I developed a love of stories. And of course, in South Louisiana, we have a huge storytelling tradition. So speaking of hunting and fishing, going into camp and listening to stories, listening to all the men tell stories, going to the barbershop and hearing all the stories. It's not just reading, it's storytelling. So I think that made me want to tell my own stories. And that love of storytelling plus the love of the written word led to writing.
That's great. I like to write as well. I haven't in a long time, but I do like it.
That's great.
I do like it.
What kind of stuff do you write?
A lot of it actually comes from, I guess, is in the form of maybe marketing. So maybe our Facebook page, stuff like that.
That's all writing.
Kind of dabbled with like some journaling, but I'm not disciplined enough to keep up with it. So a lot of times I have a big master plan on what I'm going to do and how it's going to come out, and then 7 days later I hate it and I want to stop, and that happens.
Well, it's like everything else. It's habit forming, right?
Yeah.
You have the habit or you don't. You're in the habit of doing your social media here, so that's of course easier to do than a journal that you don't write every day. And look, I wish I could tell you I wrote a journal. I don't, right? And I went on a vacation recently, and one of my daughters was journaling, and I thought, isn't that great? She's just stopping and she's journaling. If everybody could journal, it would be wonderful, because not only is it something you might enjoy, but it's you're of course recording history is what you're doing. History is one big journal. That's what history is, right? So journaling's awesome.
All right, you mentioned maybe some of the guys back at the camp telling stories. Who were those men?
Oh man, gosh, everyone from my Uncle Clyde Coco, my great uncle, who, it's interesting because he was an insurance salesman. He lived in Baton Rouge, but he hunted a lot in Morgan City. And anyway, Uncle Clyde came up the other day because one of his colleagues is in this area, and when he told me who he used to work for, Equitable, I said, well, you might have known my Uncle Clyde, right? I can remember my Uncle Clyde telling stories to all of my father's name is Quentin Falgoust, all of his friends, who, a lot of them have a lot of hot hair now. Not that his buddy Ernie Vicknair would have hot hair, but Ernie and John J. Jones, who's passed away, he's passed on to, gosh, I don't know. It seems like any random person who showed up at the camp had a story to tell. Boise Bollinger is a great storyteller. I haven't been to a camp with him in years, but I'm thinking of his name just because he told some phenomenal stories. I'm thinking about a deer hunting trip to Mexico right across the border. All kinds of people.
The camp's a good place. The camp comes up in almost every conversation with almost no matter who it is and whatever their walk of life is. It seems everyone has been to a camp and they remember it, and I think that's really cool.
It's a big coming of age thing for kids too.
Mhm. Yep. We talk about. I wouldn't trade any of that time for the world. The camp, just learning how to do what you're not supposed to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. If it happens at the camp, right? You know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the podcast one day. That's
Camp stories?
Yeah. That's the new thing. If it happens at the camp, we'll tell everyone.
It'll be heavily redacted.
All right, let's get into some work. What was the beginning of, let's say, your career? How did it start? And kind of walk us through the steps of the journey.
Yeah, what did your dad do, and how did you become a lawyer?
Well, my father, he's retired now, but he was an ophthalmologist, so I think like a lot of people, like for instance, y'all have followed in a family tradition, and I assume, like I think a lot of young boys do, that you want to do what your grandfather or your father or maybe your parent, whatever, you want to follow in the footsteps of a male role model. And I worked for my father one summer in between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college. And I realized during that summer that while what he did was very interesting, I couldn't see doing that. I didn't think the medical profession was for me. So I went to college with the idea, honestly, of becoming a journalist at first. There's the writing, there's the storytelling. Mm-hmm. I went to the University of Missouri, which had a great journalism school. I had a wonderful experience. But this is back in the late 80s, early 90s, when the television market was much smaller than it is now. You didn't even have Fox affiliates in every city. And, of course, Fox 8 is the biggest affiliate right now in New Orleans, is the leading market leader. In any event, there weren't a lot of jobs. The jobs were low paying. And my senior year, I decided, well, I really don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to take the LSAT. I'm going to take the LSAT, and I'm going to apply to go to law school. And then my first, I say full-time, my first everyday paying job after graduating from college was shoveling shrimp at the Wayne Estate Shrimp Company in Grand Isle. So at that point, down in the hold of a shrimp boat one day, when I got that letter from LSU Law that said I was in, I said, you know what, hey, law school's not such a bad idea. I think I might be going to law school.
That would make a really cool picture. You down in the hole with the acceptance letter?
Yes.
By 22 years old, you decided there's two things you don't want to do.
That's right.
That's shoveling shrimp and being an eye doctor.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if those things are related at all, but you're right, Bo. I mean, wow. Yeah, shoveling shrimp might have been better than in any event. Yeah. So I went to LSU Law School, and that was it. I became a lawyer at that point. Oh, I knew I was going to become a lawyer at that point.
And did you have a niche in mind at that point?
I really didn't. I did like the idea, like a lot of people do, of international law, quote unquote, right? I think that was the only thing that maybe I thought about. And then I got a job my first or my second summer in law school at a maritime firm in New Orleans. I really liked those guys. I liked what they did, and I said, I'm gonna do that. Mm-hmm. So I graduated. I went to work for Bollinger as an assistant in-house counsel for a few months because, honestly, they offered me a job and there really weren't any other opportunities, even though I interviewed all over the place. And then the firm that I worked for that summer hired me to do maritime defense work. What did that mean? It meant I was defending drilling companies, tugboat companies, sometimes blue water vessel companies when it came to accident claims, collisions. I mean, when two vessels collide in the fog, man, that's something to see. That was my first case. Mm-hmm. Two vessels colliding over here in Morgan City, or Amelia. I think it was in Amelia. That was the first file I was handed, right? Mm-hmm. So I did that for a couple of years. Then I went out on my own in Metairie because even though my wife is from this area, she was still working her teaching job, and we decided to stay in New Orleans for a couple of more years. So I did that, and then I brought my practice home to Thibodaux, and I've been here ever since the year 2000.
So what was that maritime case like? What does that entail, and I don't know, how do you go about?
Well,
how's that work?
This is any legal case, civil or criminal. It's about who's telling the truth, who has the correct version of the facts.
I'm out. I can't do your job already.
You know what?
That drives me nuts.
Yeah, no, think
Just
about
tell
it.
the truth. Let's see what happened.
All right, so your first case, can you talk about it?
Yeah.
So
I can-
when you got handed it, you were defending, right?
Well, in this case, I don't remember if it was it was kind of both, because the vessels collided and they were both blaming each other.
All right.
So it was both plaintiff and defense, right?
So at what point do you feel on the team and no, y'all are wrong, we're right? How long does that take until you truly you feel it?
Well, when you realize that all these guys at the firm have got plenty to do, and all the work trickles down to the young guy, and you have to go out there and actually talk to the witnesses, and they're relying on you, even though you're brand new and you really don't know what you're doing, you're on the team right away, right? You're on the team right away, and it's what's crazy is, in this case might not have been as good an example as this because it was a fog and radar was involved and all of that. But let's say when there was an accident out on a jackup rig in the Gulf.
Like an equipment failure or something like that? Or?
Sure, or it could have been the plaintiff's, the injured party's fault. Who knows?
Right.
But there's an accident. You got 3 people on the drill floor. They're all looking at the same thing from different angles, but they're all looking at it, and they all 3 tell different stories. And sometimes it's because one of them is not telling the truth, and sometimes it's memory.
Yeah, crazy stuff happens.
Yeah.
You know, y'all got a bunch of people here. I'm sure some things happen, and one guy says this, and one guy says that, and like, man, who do we believe, right? And sometimes this is the crazy thing. Everybody's telling the truth. It's just their version of the truth is different than this guy's version of the truth.
We have a guy that actually works at both locations that we've never met, and his name is Nobody. And if something's broken in the back and you go back there and see it, would you believe that nobody broke it? Every time.
Oh, I can't imagine what all the moving parts you have around here. I'm sure that happens quite a bit. Yeah, so, you know, very seldom is it about the law. Is it a legal issue and you're fighting over interpretation of the law? Most of the time the law is fairly clear, not always, but the majority of the time, and it's who's telling the truth, whose version of the facts is correct. That's law. That's the practice of law.
I have this kind of question. Is it always, if we're driving boats and we get in a wreck, is it always either my fault or your fault? Or is there always a share, or is there a way to share blame?
Yeah, I mean, normally you have the rules of the road on the road out there on, West Park Avenue right out in front of us. And there are the rules on a road on the water, right? So there were maritime rules that, look, and I hadn't done this kind of work in 28 years, so I don't remember them, but you had to memorize all of that and learn all of that. And then, of course, the same thing applies. Now, you can have what's called comparative fault. And that's not exactly what you're asking, but that means an accident occurs, there are 3 parties, and the judge or the jury assigns percentages of fault to each party.
That makes sense.
But then there are times when, I'll be honest, like in a parking lot, right? We're going to get off the road and get onto the ground for a minute. In a parking lot, you're supposed to use the rules that apply out on the road unless the parking lot is clear, like there's a stop sign in the parking lot. Or, if I'm backing out of a stall and I hit somebody coming down a thoroughfare of some kind in the parking lot, well, I'm at fault. I know that. The law's clear on that. But there are times in a parking lot, because the law is not as clear, where it's hard to know who's at fault. Because, they just hit each other.
All right, so after the maritime law, like transitioning into your private practice, when did you know what niche that would be in?
That took a while. Because
and was there different versions of your practice currently?
The first version of my practice after I left that firm was whatever walked in the door. I know that's a cliche.
And is that kind of how everyone starts if they want to go out on their own?
If they want to go out on their own and they don't have an existing clientele, yes. Now I had one good case when I went on my own, and nothing else. So I did a little bit of everything, including criminal defense, which I don't do at all now and hadn't done for years, right? The only thing I probably never touched was I refused to file bankruptcy or defend bankruptcy because I didn't know enough, right? Everything else you can imagine, I handled at one point. Now, that's not really what we do now, but that's how it started.
And it evolved just based on the number of people that wanted certain things, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what you do in here, if I come into this meat market and I demand more of something, right, you're going to produce more of it unless it's too inefficient for you to produce it,
Yeah.
right? Well, I don't think any business, few businesses are different than that. So what happened was when I came back to Thibodeau, I had a small real estate practice, maybe 15%, if that, of my total bottom line were real estate files. Because I had my father-in-law was at a local bank, and he'd give me a few, right? Well, all of a sudden, a guy leaves his bank, he goes to another bank, and he says, I want to send my closings to you. And then a little while after that, another bank approaches me, and they said, look, our guy's a little older. Honestly, he's slow. He charges too much. We like you. We want to send to you. And then it hit me. Wait a second. There's something to real estate. You know, at first I was very uncomfortable with it because I was only used to litigation, right, to dealing with lawsuits, right? And then suddenly I'm handling these real estate titles, which can be very confusing and thick and very detailed, and I had to get in my comfort zone there. But when I realized there was a demand for a real estate attorney who was maybe not the present real estate attorneys practicing, I don't know if that's the right way of putting it, but that's when I got into real estate. And now it is the dominant part of our practice. It's not all that we do. We do a lot of estate planning and successions. That's become more and more dominant as the population has aged. And we still handle litigation. I'm going to trial next Friday on a case over a company sale gone bad, right? Not in court that often anymore, but like I said, I got a trial coming up, so it does still happen.
First, why you moved back to Thibodeau? Why Thibodeau?
Well, I'm from Thibodeau. My wife is from Thibodeau, and I think it was because we realized, okay, we're gonna start having children. We've enjoyed New Orleans, but
it wasn't a business decision. It was a lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah,
decision.
I mean, business decision. Look, if you're gonna have a practice and you're a lawyer, where you're from is not a terrible idea because you got a head start on clients, right? I mean, y'all see it in here. You got people that you grew up with who come in here who didn't maybe go to Bourgeois back in the day, but they know y'all, so they want to come in, or they know one of your workers here. I mean, they say all business is local. I agree with that.
And then my other question was, you had to transition into the real estate, and you didn't know fully what you were getting into or the best ways to do it. Did you just learn that on your own, just through study, or did you have like a mentor or someone you knew that was like, how do you do this?
Yeah, I want to give a lot of credit to Rick Boudery because I'd done some contract work with Block and Boudery, Harold Block and Rick Boudery. And the first time I got an abstract in on a file, I had no idea what I was looking at. And I'd been through 3 years of law school. I'd been through 3 years of practice at least, maybe more than that. And I'd never seen one of those things. And what an abstract is it's the history of that piece of property going back at least 30 years, possibly beyond that. And it's got the chain of title from owner to owner to owner. And the encumbrances on that title, the mortgages, the judgments, the liens, whatever might be encumbering that property, along with all the servitudes and rights of way. So this looked like Arabic to me. It did, even though I'd had all this legal experience by this point. So Rick walked me through that abstract, and in the early days, if I had a question, I'd call him, he'd always answer it. And then the good part about title work is if you start writing title insurance, which honestly today, if you don't write title insurance, you cannot have a title practice. They have underwriting attorneys who helped, and there's a guy in Baton Rouge who actually lives in Arkansas now who's 80, but his name is David. David Cooley. He kind of talks like this, right? David Cooley. So if I had a question, and David would go talk to David, and he would answer that question. He would talk about that title and all that. Anyway, so
sounds like the judge off of Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
I was just saying that's most of my where I've learned most of my stuff about lawyers.
Yeah, that's a
that
great movie, man. It's a great legal movie, right? Not just a comedy. My Cousin Vinny is classic.
So good. I'm probably going to go watch it tonight.
And not unrealistic, honestly. Not unrealistic.
So we like to watch Suits. Do you know about Suits?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
I'm curious to know if, how much of it is crap and, what it's like day to day. All right, so separating, or I guess, how long did it take to feel some success in your own practice?
Can I go back to titles real quick? I'm sorry.
Sure.
How stressful is that? Because I've thought about that, and what you're talking about with the title history or whatever can be really confusing and really frustrating to look at. And then ultimately, are you on the hook if something?
Yes.
If something is funky with that title and somebody bought something that didn't belong to somebody else?
We are definitely on the hook. We have definitely made mistakes before because you're going to make them. The chances of us making mistakes went way down when my law partner, Cassie Roderick Bro, started reviewing our titles. Cassie is extremely meticulous and organized. I'm not extremely meticulous and organized, right? I struggled reviewing titles. I struggled. I'd have to start looking at a title at 5 a.m. because the second the day got going, the second the bell rang and it was 8:30 and the phone started ringing, you could forget about it. I couldn't look at another one until 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the evening. Whereas she can block out the world and focus on that title. And I don't remember.
It's kind of how Bo is.
Is that right? That's the mathematics in you, huh?
Yeah,
that's the mathematician. No, I can already tell that the two of you have different personalities, right? Mm-hmm. That you're better at different things, and you have to recognize what your strengths are. And my strength was not reviewing a title, though I did it for a lot of years, and I still do it occasionally. If there's an issue, she and I'll talk about it, right? But yes, it is very scary what can happen. So what is someone out there do to protect themselves? You buy owner's title insurance. It's easy. You pay it one time. It protects you forever. It's simple. Mm-hmm. The general liability and property insurance on this building, we know is ridiculously expensive, right? And you throw windstorm and flood and everything else, you got to pay that premium every year. Auto in Louisiana has become ridiculously expensive. Again, you're paying that once a year, once a quarter, once a month, whatever your arrangement is. Title insurance, you pay it one time. Pay it once. So it's a great product, and what it really does is it gives you peace of mind. It's kind of like this old guy was in my office yesterday with his children and his sister, and he's not doing as well, and they wanted to get him a generator, right? Because he cannot be in the heat. So is he ever going to use that generator? In this part of the world, probably, right? But what does it really do? It gives him peace of mind, right? So peace of mind, I think, is important. It's important. And it's important that a lawyer give her client peace of mind, right? And part of that, title insurance does that, but it also protects the attorney too if something goes wrong. Because yes, I'm on the hook if there's a problem, but of course attorneys write the laws, right? Attorney's only on the hook for 3 years. Only 3 years. The title insurance company is on the hook if there's coverage forever. So that's the difference.
And how long before Cassie came along?
Cassie has been with me 18 years now. 18 years.
Wow. And how far is y'all reach right now? Your current clientele, you got many out of state?
There's still people who are out of state that they come back and they want us to do things for them locally. But, we're only licensed to practice law in Louisiana. So,
okay.
You talked about the camp. A lot of people have land in Mississippi and Texas, but particularly Mississippi, sometimes Alabama. and they'll want us to handle that transaction. Well, we can't. So what do I tell them? I'll say, look, I'll help you with any questions you have that don't involve questions of state law, Mississippi or Alabama. I'll be your notary if you need something notarized, but mainly buy owner's title insurance. I had a guy bought some property up in Montana. He said, I want you to handle it for me. I said, well, I'm not a Montana lawyer, so I can't, but buy owner's title insurance.
Right.
So
Good
our
advice.
reach, go ahead, Shane, I'm sorry.
Good advice.
Our reach is really St. Mary to St. Charles, up into the river area. I mean, we will handle matters sometimes in other parishes in the state. For instance, if somebody buys hunting property up in Tensall Parish, which seems to be popular these days, we'll handle that transaction. But most of our clients are between St. Mary and St. Charles, up to St. James, St. John the Baptist, on down toward the Gulf, right? Lafourche, Terrebonne, Assumption.
One of my notes I wanted to talk about was living will.
Yes.
Can you talk about that and explain why it's important and why I need to just do it and stop talking about it like I have been for like 10 years?
So some people talk about the living will thinking it's a last will and testament. That might be what you're thinking.
Maybe. What do I have nothing right now, so what do I need to do?
So what you want at a minimum is you want a power of attorney, which allows someone to sign for you on your behalf as long as you're alive.
Okay.
Right? As long as you're alive. It's in
Everyone
effect.
should have that.
Everyone, because I can't tell you how many times we've seen a situation where someone slips quickly into dementia, because sometimes it's faster than you think, or they get in an accident and suddenly they're incapacitated and they cannot handle their affairs at that moment.
Who should that person be? Should it be your spouse?
Yes.
It should be my wife, and then I should be my wife's?
Yes. Yes. And then if your children are old enough, you can have a backup child. Sometimes you can have a cousin or a brother who you trust as a backup. Some people come to me and they're not married and they've never been married, but they want a power of attorney, so it's their best friend or their neighbor or like I said, a sibling. I mean, everyone needs a power of attorney. A living will is the same thing as a declaration. It's the same thing as, well, it's been called a few other things, but let's stick with those two terms. Or a procuration. What is that exactly? It means you're signing a form that comes with language out of a state statute that says two physicians, have said that you're basically brain dead. You've got a terminal and irreversible condition, and you want to be taken off of life support, feeding tube, a vent. And again, this is a situation where you can't speak for yourself because your brain is gone and it's not coming back. That can help, particularly in a situation. I don't mind using this as an example. Before I started to do a lot of estate planning, back in 2007, my grandmother had a stroke, and I did not have a living will for her. I hadn't done much of it at that point. She had 6 children, 5 at the time. 5 of them said, Mama's brain is gone. Let's go ahead and terminate the life support. One of my aunts said, no, I can't do that. So this went on for over a day. And it could have gone on longer, but it was an excruciating day plus. If she'd have had a living will, the decision would have been made, right?
Gotcha.
So that's a living will. A last will and testament is where your assets go when you pass away, right? How do you want those assets distributed? And then what the funeral homes are recommending now is some type of disposition affidavit. If you want to be cremated, a cremation affidavit. If you don't want to be cremated, you want to insist that you're not, you put that in an affidavit. Those are 4 very basic documents that everyone needs.
So the last will and testament, how often are people updating this or making changes or?
Well, certainly if you have a big life event and you think you might need to change it, you want to call whoever prepared it. If it was us, you call us and you say, look, I want to revisit this. But we recommend looking at it yourself internally every 5 years or so and just saying, look, this is what it says. Has anything changed? Do we need to make an appointment and change our will? There's also something called a living trust, which has become very popular. A living trust, there are 3 of us sitting at this table right now. We're all legal entities, right? We're all natural, what's called a natural person. But if we had a living will, a Shane Thibodeau living will, that would be a fourth entity, a juridical person, just like an LLC, right? And what is that? That's something that you would form and then transfer all your non-beneficiary assets to. And it's got various advantages and disadvantages, but it is something that people are talking about more often. So sometimes people decide, well, I don't want that. I don't want the living trust. And then when they get older, they say, you know what, I want to have living trust. So that's why I say you want to reevaluate it every 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm. Do you do much business succession planning and stuff like that?
Yes. Now, there's succession planning for individuals. That's the personal stuff. But you're talking about a company succession plan.
And I'm thinking about some of these things, like power of attorney, for example. Like if I die tomorrow, it's gonna be an issue for Shane to pay the bills for Gray. Is there a power of attorney for a business?
So there are a couple of things you could do. If it's an LLC, there's something called an operating agreement. If it's a corporation, they're called bylaws. But you can have language built into that document about what happens when someone passes or someone becomes disabled. And then, yes, you could give power of attorney. That's another option. But we typically recommend that within the structure of the company document that there's language written that takes care of that.
So that needs to be in the operating agreement.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know, what's your advice on making these types of things with kids that are younger? And kind of, I don't know, family
Right.
planning and stuff like that.
So let's talk about that because that's important. So let's just say that, of course, a parent's biggest nightmare is that mom and dad are going to pass away while the child is still young, right? I mean, the biggest nightmare, of course, is that you lose your child. But if you're assuming your biggest nightmare for your child would be if a living child would be that both parents were gone. So what happens in that instance? Well, you can't do anything about it if you don't have a will. But if you have a will, then you can create a trust inside that will for, let's say, little Jackie here, right? You know, who's going to be the trustee of the trust? Well, it can't be mom or dad because they're gone. Well, maybe it could be, you know, papa or mama. Maybe it could be parent. Maybe it could be nanny. Maybe it could be the family accountant. You name it, I've seen it. A best friend. But that's the trustee for the money. Now, who's going to raise the child? Well, that's where what we call in Louisiana the tutor or the administrator, what they call in other states the guardian comes in, right? Mm-hmm. So you can designate a parent, a grandparent, the child's your parent, the testator's parent, the testator's grandparent, the aunt, an uncle, a sister, a sibling, whatever, a brother, to be the guardian. And I'm going to use guardian because that's a term more people are familiar with. The court ultimately decides custody if custody is challenged, right? But it helps if you insert that into your will. That's what, look, a lot of young parents, I used to get 0 young parents coming in to do wills. Now I get a lot of them because, you know, they're getting ready to go on a trip. They're going on a second honeymoon, or they're going to Vegas, or they're going to Europe or Hawaii or whatever it is. I mean, I had some people that were taking a drive. You said you just got back from Austin. They were going to someplace near there, and it just hit them. What happens if something happens to us?
Yeah.
I mean, I-10 is treacherous, right? So they came in just to make sure something was set up for their children.
I think about it often. I do a lot of dangerous things, and I don't not think about it. So I know that's been something that I needed to do for like 10 years. My mom harped on me 10 years ago when I was still in the Marines. I remember her telling me, like, you need to do this, you know, and I still hadn't done anything. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, so think about that for a minute. You were in the Marines. Obviously, you were putting your life at risk just by signing up for the Marines. But that never hit you. And you were doing things that were very dangerous. Mm-hmm. So most people are just like you. They don't think about it. Mm-hmm. They think they're going to live forever, which that's the one thing that we know can happen, right? That's the one thing.
Yeah, but when you're 18?
Yeah.
Can't convince somebody.
No,
Can't
Or
convince an
35.
18-year-old.
yeah.
All right, so every 5 years, maybe take a look at it, update it, something like that. And I'm guessing you can be very specific with the language. If you have businesses and you want your kids to be able to operate them, but they're 10 right now, you
could take care of that between the operating agreement and the will,
mm-hmm.
or maybe a trust. I mean,
And if you don't,
you're leaving it to chance.
then it's just, yeah, okay.
And that's the other thing we do a lot of. I say fortunately because it puts food on our table, but unfortunately for these families, when you don't have carefully drafted wills or trusts, you sometimes have estate disputes and siblings who honestly got along just fine until mom and daddy died, suddenly not only don't get along, but they're fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's over very small amounts.
Is that pretty common?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, could see that. What's the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job, I would say, is finding a good employee. I'll be honest.
God dang it.
Y'all have that trouble maybe
Blue
too?
collar, white collar, doesn't matter.
So, we have great employees today who've been with us for a while, whether they've been with us 19 years or our shortest tenured permanent employee has been with us a year. All of those people have been great. But, I tell people all the time, in baseball, you bat 300, you're a great hitter. I have not bat 300 when it comes to hiring employees. So if I could make more people like I have right now, that'd be great. But that's very difficult. And I know that has nothing to do with the practice of law,
Mm-hmm.
but it has everything to do with the practice of law, just like it has everything to do with running a meat market.
Yep.
You need good people.
How many people you got right now?
Well, it fluctuates, but there are 11 of us who are full-time, and then we have a couple of part-timers.
Wow.
So practicing law is one thing, and then running the business is another thing.
Yes. Yes.
Which one? Which one? I guess are you more passionate about?
Oh, I'm passionate about helping people, and that's practicing law. Now, I do enjoy working with the people I get to work with every day.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that. I'm passionate about that. But the running the business part, while it's fun, it can be fun, and I'm going to get in an aspect of that in a minute. What I signed up for was to help people out there,
mm-hmm.
right? Was to take on some challenges. Some people who were in need of help and did not know how to help themselves because they aren't lawyers,
mm-hmm.
who need a lawyer to help them. Even if it's as straightforward as a straightforward real estate transaction, because they aren't always straightforward, to some complex litigious matter, personal injury cases. We don't do a tremendous amount of that, right? But we definitely want to help our clients if our existing clients are injured, and because what are they looking for? They're just looking really to be made whole and to move on. All these billboards out there that say if you're in an accident, call me, or my lawyer got me $400,000 or $10 million or whatever.
You can make
it is.
a good commercial like that, I'm sure.
Man, I'm going to tell you. That's not what it's about. It's about getting paid your back loss wages, getting your medical bills paid, getting a little pain and suffering, and moving on. It should not be, this is the be-all, end-all of my life, is to get this settlement. Now, some people need it, but a very, very small percentage, when they're injured, can't ever work again, right? I
wonder if every lawyer thought that way and acted that way, what our insurance rates would be.
You said it. Oh, I can't say it any more succinctly than that. Somebody told me the other day that one call costs us all. I don't know who came up with that. But it's true. It's true. It's ridiculous. So look, social media, we did put out a series of videos that basically say, look, a lot of you don't think we do personal injury, but we do. I defended those cases in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. We can handle it, but we're looking for legitimate claims. Mm-hmm. We don't want to know that you were in an accident and you don't have a property damage claim because you had a small amount of damage and it was settled and you're not hurt and it's been 6 months, but you're told you can get a little money.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I had a friend of mine that does a lot of this kind of work. He told me that he has people who call him and say, hey, I was in an accident and I wasn't injured. Can I still get money?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not interested in that. So we put out these social media videos that told our clientele that, basically.
Yeah.
So speaking of social media, I know you're into it, right? Y'all do a great job with it here. And that part of what we're doing now, I do find fun, right? You're talking about the business versus the practice of law. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy helping with our social media videos. I think mm-hmm. those are a lot of fun. There's a chance for some creativity, chance to celebrate our local culture, our local community, to get all the employees involved, mm-hmm. In some of these. So I do really enjoy that part of it.
Well, I'm sure you heard a lot of this too, but I got a ton of feedback about the Rocky video. I mean, everybody that I know was calling me and telling me how funny it was.
We had such a good time with that. Catherine Jones, of course, is in the studio today helping to film this. As y'all know, she filmed and edited that. My law partner, Cassie, was somebody called her Rockette, right?
Rockette.
And y'all taught her all about hitting meat and all that stuff. I mean, look, what the public doesn't know is how ready y'all were for us that day. Because we've done a lot of these collaborations, and, people just...
No one else had a cow hanging.
No.
Right?
I mean, y'all had everything set up and ready to go. But, look, Bourgeois is a well-known business, but we still want to celebrate Bourgeois, right, because of what y'all have meant for this community and for our local Cajun culture. And really, there are so many other businesses out there that aren't as well-known, but, heck, I really think the public, when they go to make a buying decision, should think local first. Think independent business first. We can't get away from some of the big corporations, but Amazon has been blown out of proportion. I mean, the world has put some money in Jeff Bezos' pocket here recently to the detriment of small business, right? And what keeps us humming here? Small business. So our videos, y'all's collab was probably maybe the most fun we've had, honestly, because of the two of you, right, being so ready for us. But we always enjoy getting together with a business and celebrating that business, celebrating the culture. Sometimes we're not getting together with the business. It's when it snowed, right? That was a huge event for us. So we did a little snow day video, and then we'll try to have themes to our video. Of course, y'all were Rocky, right? But we had with one business, we featured an employee. She was the dancing queen. We had a Christmas series called The Rocks in the Box rather than The Elf in the Shelf. We had, we did something with Crawdaddy's Crawfish where there was a lead crawfish. Ann was our lead crawfish. So again, we're celebrating business, we're celebrating culture. That's something, I don't know about the two of you, but that wasn't even on my radar until a year or so ago. But it's been fun.
It's important. You're kind of dabbling in the entertainment business some, because what do people do for fun now? They go home and sit on their phone.
Isn't that crazy?
So it's so much more effective and engaging and entertaining than a billboard or a radio ad or a POV magazine ad or something like that, And it's easy to do. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to do it at a basic level. And people remember it, and it makes them open up. Like, it's hard to get reviews and feedback from people, but you put a crawfish video out, and everyone now has some kind of connection with. They shop at where'd y'all
Crawdaddy's.
They shop at Crawdaddy's, and now all of a sudden they're giving reviews and testimonials to both places. That they wouldn't have reached out to on their own. I don't know. It does some weird things. What about, or how much do you know about AI and what that can do for this, I don't know, keeping a business going and interacting with the community? And
that's something that I wish my young 25-year-old daughter could comment on that because she knows a lot more about AI than I do, right? I think the young people typically know more than the non-technical people know who are older. But this is what I mean, AI, of course, is extremely open-ended, but this is just my take on it. I want to make sure that the story of a video, let's just use a Facebook video as an example. The story is an original story that we tell, right? The writing, the scripting, the shooting, the editing is all original because I think that's important. It shows our personality, right? Whether I'm the one overseeing the editing, whether Catherine is actually doing the editing, Cassie makes comments on the editing. Sometimes we get other people. I think our personalities come across because we don't use AI to shoot. We don't use AI to edit. We don't use AI to write. Now, this is what's been remarkable to me about AI on those personal injury videos I talked about. And on this video that we ran yesterday, we collaborated with the Alumni Grill for their Burger of the Month. We used AI backdrops. And without those AI backdrops, we could not have cobbled together that video that quickly or that effectively, honestly. So I do think it has its place. I want real actors in the video, whether it's our employees or whether it's the business we're collaborating with. Not that we were acting the day that we did the Rocky video, right?
Not at all.
Oh, I never.
You just.
I mean, what people don't realize was I was in that smokehouse for
real.
10, 15 minutes, right? But now, as you know, it had me coming in and out. But y'all had me in there at least 30 seconds, a minute.
We thought about keeping it locked.
Yeah.
Making it more realistic.
Because I can tell you, when I walked out, those coughs were real.
Does it have a place yet in your business other than the marketing side?
That's a great
title
question.
and reviewing documents and organizing and.
We've not done that. I had a former employee that came to me and said, "Look at this," and it was a legal memo. And this guy was not a lawyer. He was not a lawyer, and he showed me this memo. He said, "AI wrote this." I couldn't get over it. Now, I read it, and it wasn't completely accurate. Some of it was remarkably accurate, but some of it was not. So I don't think AI should write legal briefs. I don't think AI should review title. I don't think you can trust AI to do those things. I don't think AI should put the final touches on a contract. Now, I hadn't done this yet, but I'm just thinking, might I use AI give me and I don't know how it works, Catherine understands how it works, but AI, can you give me a clause on a contract, a specific clause that I've never written? Just for idea purposes, sure.
Or to give you a base to start on, you can.
Yeah, you go. Yeah. I use it all the time. I use it for the website a lot. I use it on contract, like property contract type stuff. And like you said, I had a tenant that wanted to add his own internet. And I just put internet, but he needs a high-speed internet because he's a gamer. So I said, yes, I'll allow it. I'll add something in our contract that says that. And I went on ChatGPT. I said, hey, I just talked to it like I'm talking to a person. I said, my new tenant wants to add internet. I want him to be responsible for everything, cut and dry, before and after everything. What you got? Boom. I mean, it gave me something that I didn't change. I read it and I said, sounds great. Put it in there.
And that's a great. I don't have an issue with that. Now, some lawyers would say, well, wait a second now. Shane's not an attorney. He may get into trouble, maybe. But from being a landlord, of course, we've talked about your lease before. You don't know if you're going to need something until you know that you're going to need it with a lease. And I tell brand new landlords that all the time. This is a lease that I'm going to give you based on. It was a form once upon a time, and we've adapted it over the years. But guess what? A tenant is either going to request something like it did in your case, or something's going to happen that no one sees coming. Well, then you adapt your lease. And it has to be in a language that the tenant can understand.
Kinda.
Well, Well, yeah. That's true.
Look,
That's
I
a
can never
stretch
understand
sometimes. but you know what I'm saying? One argument that I have as an attorney, if I'm the tenant's attorney, is, well, that no reasonable tenant would have understood what that sentence meant.
Gotcha.
Right? But what I'm saying is AI might help you make it more
Mhm.
understandable. It could.
Yeah.
It could. So AI has a place. There's no doubt about it. I just think maybe it's not as expansive a place as some people think it should.
What about for some more mundane, like time-saving things? For example, after this podcast is done, Shane's gonna run the audio through the computer situation, and it's gonna give a synopsis, right,
Mm-hmm.
to go with the podcast.
Yeah. It'll give an entire transcript.
It can do a transcript, but it can shorten it down to important key points.
Some highlights.
So, like, if you had a meeting with a client, I imagine you could record it, and without having to listen back to the 1 or 2 hour conversation you had, you could say, "Hey, give me what did we talk about?" And it could give you a 1-page summary.
And that might be coming. I will say this: I pointed out to Catherine and Cassie the other day that Meta, which of course owns Facebook and Instagram, summarized what our firm did on our page, and they summarized it incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
That bothered me,
Mhm.
right? Because the public saw that, but honestly, I don't know what to do about it.
Well, you can use AI to fix
AI?
what it thinks, and that's what we've been working a lot with on the website, and really like digging into the SEO of the website. And I mean, I probably saved 2 years worth of figuring out on my own, quickly telling it what I'm trying to accomplish. I just don't know how, because I didn't study this, and it'll quickly brief me on what enough usable information for me to hurry up and go do it, or I'm able to copy and paste a lot of things that are just kind of some filler keyword type things. It doesn't need to be creative. It needs to train the internet on what bourgeois is, So, I mean, you.
No, and look, I hear you, and I don't, like I said, I'm not probably your number one AI witness, right, or expert by any means, but I don't think it's, for instance, when Bo, you said when this is all taped, it's going to give you a synopsis. I think that could be helpful, because that's mainly for your purposes, right?
Mhm.
It's a review of what was said during the podcast without seeing every word. So for your own purposes, it's fine. I think when you throw it out there to the public, it certainly needs to be edited, right? It needs to be edited. And I don't think there's anything replacing the creative process. And when I say that, I know that AI can be creative. But if we want to bring out Shane and Bo's unique personalities, AI is not going to do that. Only the two of you can do that. By the same token, when it comes to time saving on technical stuff, I'm all about it.
Mr. Woody, getting back to being a business owner versus being a lawyer, what would you guess like your time split is between running a business and actually being a lawyer? And I guess to be a little bit more specific, like how much of your time is spent hiring people, reading through resumes, paying bills, doing accounting versus, the stuff that makes you money.
Right. No, I hear you. And I would say it depends on the week, of course. I mean, I talked about a trial we have coming up. If there's an event like that, then it's going to be, 90-something% practicing law, and the rest of it hoping that the business doesn't blow up, right? the 6%. But if we don't have an event like that, it's probably 60-40 or 70-30, depending on the week, with the higher number being practicing law. I mean, when it comes to y'all, obviously have to hire a lot of employees. You got to look at a lot of resumes. We don't have to do that quite as much, but of course there's accounting. There's managing all the issues, putting out all the fires. There aren't always legal fires, right? Sometimes they're managerial office issues with the building or something, with we rent a place in Houma. It could be an issue that I've got to tell the owner in that case, right? But what's really been commandeering my time a lot lately has been meeting with estate planning clients and succession clients. I'm doing more and more of that, and there's no substitute for me sitting down with that person one-on-one, because a lot of people will send me an email and they say, what should I do? Should I do a will of a trust? Or should I do this? Or, look, I'm going to send you something to review, whatever it is. And there's no substitute for sitting down with somebody and understanding exactly what their needs and goals are. So that takes up a tremendous amount of time. And then, of course, we're doing closings. If it's a litigious matter, sometimes we have to write a brief, we have to take a deposition, we have to go to court. I don't do as much as that as I used to do, not nearly as much. But so I would say all told, 60, 40, 70, 30, depending on the week.
How many closings are you doing a week?
Oh, gosh. Well, again, it varies. The market is very cyclical. Y'all probably noticed that about real estate. After Ida, there was no real estate for a while, for a few months, unless someone had cash to buy on a damaged property, to spend on a damaged property. There wasn't any real estate, right? And the last 2 years have not been super great because our insurance premiums are terrible in this area. They're too high, and interest rates have not been what they were. So it depends on the year. It depends on the period. If we're doing 10, 20 closings a week, then that's great, right? For this area. In Baton Rouge, Lafayette, New Orleans, not necessarily. But if we're doing less than 10, then not so great. That's why I can't just do real estate. We have to do everything. Now, the other part about doing real estate is if you have a real estate practice today, not back in the day, but today, you've got to have the staff that can handle high volume once it comes in. It's kind of like, I don't know, do y'all hire cyclically for deer season?
That was going to be my question. Are closings sort of like seasonal too? I mean, I know you said it depends on yearly types of things, but is there a certain type of year when people are buying? Or?
Well, typically between Thanksgiving and Mardi Gras, things are slower, right? Right when they're busy for y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're slower for us in the real estate industry. And then other than that, it's pretty steady unless it's maybe you hitting a huge vacation period in the middle of summer or everybody's graduating the first couple of weeks in May. You get some of that. But yeah, there are years when that interest rate is low, obviously it's better. Or if we hadn't had a hurricane in a while, so the premiums are more reasonable, it's better. The one thing we do have going for us in this area, and it's a huge thing, is that people from here want to live here, just like the three of us, right? We want to come back here, and there's only so much land. So that means what's available, there's going to be demand for. The total bomb markets that you saw in places across the country in 07 and 08, we didn't experience that here. Now, we had some people defaulting, but we didn't. In our stock market portfolios went down, but you didn't see the real estate market tank like you did in other places, right? Mm-hmm. Now, getting back to seasonal, cyclical, I mean, just like y'all may have to take on a few more people for deer season, I always have to have enough staff that can handle high volume. So that really is no fun when you don't have the closings coming in, because it's hard to reorient those people and say, hey, can you help me now with a lawsuit? Yeah. Or can you help me with a succession? I mean, we try some of that, but it normally doesn't work. So, for instance, notaries, Cassie Bro is my law partner. Our other attorney is Brooke plays on Falgoust. No, she's not my daughter-in-law. She married a distant cousin. We're all also notaries. But then we have Karen Richard, who's been with us for 13 years, who is an extremely experienced succession and estate planning paralegal, who's also fantastic with contracts. Karen's been a notary for many years. Catherine Hyde, who also does our marketing, Hyde Jones, recently got her notary license. And so she's available to do notary work. Rebecca Bordelon is a part-timer with us who also has a notary license. Why am I mentioning that? Because you need to have a lot of notaries. Mm-hmm. When the closings get busy, you need as many hands on deck as you can. Sometimes that means you got to go do a mobile notary job in Donaldsonville or Dulac or wherever it is. Mm-hmm. So we have to gear up for it when it's good, and then when it's not so good, you can't lay people off. You just got to grin and bear it.
Been there.
Yes.
Is it a big investment to become a notary or to hire a notary, or?
It's not a big investment to become a notary, but you do have to pass a pretty significant test. I mean, they used to hand those commissions out like they were handing out donuts, right, back in the day. It was all done locally. Now there's a statewide notary exam, and of course I've never taken it. I didn't have to because I'm an attorney, but from what I understand, it's pretty difficult.
Gotcha. So if you start running low, it's not a simple matter of hey, go grab your notary license.
No, it really isn't. And the notary in Louisiana has a lot of power that they don't have in other states. And there are only a few. You've got some really good non-lawyer notaries out there who don't work for lawyers, who will tell you, look, I can handle your vehicle transfer, I can notarize your form, but when we get in the more complicated areas, even though I'm licensed to do it, you need to go see an attorney. And then you have some that try to do all of that and don't do it well.
So that's a good point. When do you, what makes me go to an attorney versus a notary?
I think vehicle notaries do a great job. You know, like not far from here, there's Michel Chasson, Chasson's Notary in Shreveport that a lot of people use. They do a great job with vehicle transfers. If you need a simple form notarized, if you need it today, we can notarize it for you right now, right? Catherine and I can notarize it. But a notary's fine for that. When it comes to creating contracts or doing title work or acts of sale or wills, I would not go to a notary. Now, you may go and it may work out, but if it doesn't, it's a problem.
Gotcha.
Now,
so there's not a specific requirement. It's just will it hold up after if something were to go wrong?
Yes.
That's it. The other attorney would say they could see through it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And look, the notaries that we have, the non-attorney notaries that we have with us understand that, right? They understand that because they see what happens in our office, right? And they see what happens when we get something like a small succession affidavit that a notary prepared that's wrong. It's just wrong. But the law gives them the license to do that for some reason. So
back to like some in-house stuff. Let's talk about like leadership, because you're running a pretty big crew and y'all all seem to be working well together, and there's smiles on faces in videos, and looks like everyone's getting to participate. How did that kind of come naturally for you? Do you have mentors? Do you study leadership? Do you read books? Do you watch master classes? How'd that come along?
You know, I wish I read books on leadership and looked at master classes. I haven't. I'm open to it. I just haven't. As far as mentors are concerned, you know, I don't know other than observing people over the years. I did work in my dad's office for a summer. I've watched my mother, who is an interior designer, work with people, and sometimes, let's say, if she was in charge of decorating a wedding, and I was a young hired hand, you know, climbing on the ladder, stapling things to the wall, I watch how she handled people. But I think leadership, and I'm not going to say anything. I wish I could tell you something that was just, you know, so profound, so unique.
Yeah, I'm waiting on it.
Yeah, go ahead. I think most of leadership is communication. It's really communication. It's listening. It's making sure you understand what your employee, what their challenges are, the issues that they might have. You want them to be free to communicate those challenges and those problems to you. And you're not always, of course, going to understand those things. You're not always going to read their minds. And it is, as the two of you all know, it is trial and error every day. Every day. But I also think you have to put in the work yourself. I had one person come to work with me one time, and they said, I asked that person, I said, well, what's the biggest difference between where you were, and it was not at a law firm, it was at another place, and where you are now? He said, well, to be honest, you're here all day long. You're here before I get here, and when I leave, you're still here, right? Because where this person worked before, that didn't happen with the boss. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that the boss doesn't have more freedom and flexibility. Of course the boss does. But if you're not doing the work, how do you expect your employees to do the work? I mean, I was so impressed with y'all. I'll put it this way. I've been impressed with your family company as long as I can remember, in part because I can remember your grandfather butchering meat, as a not young man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then I've seen
which is a little scary to watch.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, once he was well into his 90s, still cutting on the saw.
I was going to say, I didn't know how old he was, but if you'd have told me 90, I would have believed you, right? Other than the fact that he was cutting on the saw. Because you walk in and there he is. And your dad, I mean, he's not in the business anymore now, is he?
He pops in, but no, he's pretty retired.
Well, I can remember him cutting meat, and then I can remember y'all cutting meat. I mean, you don't put yourself above any task. And let's face it, if you want it done correctly and you want to show people how to do it correctly, you have to show them. And it keeps you attached, it keeps you grounded, and that's a very tactile thing for a butcher, right? I mean, literally your hand is on the saw, and the saw is on the meat. Mm-hmm. Law is not quite as tactile, obviously. It's a lot more esoteric and amorphous, but it's still important that they understand that the leader is as committed as they are to doing the work.
Do you train new hires yourself? Are you making hires yourself, or someone else making hires? Say for.
Well, it's my fault it's my fault regardless, right? And I say fault because I've lost more than I've won in that department. Mm-hmm. But training is, it is. It's a group effort. It's a team effort. I wish, and I'm sure y'all feel the same way, I wish I could spend more time with a new employee than I actually do spend. Because there's nothing like learning from someone who's done it for 30 years.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a hard balance because there's also nothing better for your current staff than to have such a big priority as to train a new person. Like you showing your trust in, I'm not going to teach them at all how to cut. You know everything I know. You do it every day. You do it more than I do. You teach them.
Yes.
So there's that's a tough balance. That's a very tough balance. And I guess you just don't know what to do until something goes wrong.
That's right.
You just try something different than you did last time. All right, let's talk about some books. I did a little bit of research. I did not know you had at least 3 books published. Do you have more than that?
No, that's it. Like I said, I'm working on a novel right now that I'm beginning to attempt to get published, but it's in the very early stages. But those 3 books are nonfiction books. I would like to tell you that I've had more published, but it just it hasn't happened. Some of that is because I was raising children and practicing law. The rest of it is it's a very difficult business. Publishing business is an impossible business for many people.
Mm-hmm. Or did you kind of partner with a publisher, a company that does this, and they're kind of walking you down by hand, or are you kind of trying to DIY it?
Well, I don't want to DIY it. I did do that, and I can explain in an instance or two, but my first book was published in 2001 by Sleeping Bear Press, which was a publisher out of Michigan. I'm not even sure if they're still in existence. And I submitted a proposal to them. They accepted it. They paid me in advance, and they took care of everything from editing to layout to distribution and sales. They had that book,
Right.
One Dream, the NFL, was at stores all over the country. Matter of fact, I was just watching the Turning Point 9/11 on Netflix, that series that they do about turning points in history. And when they were talking about the towers coming down, one of them mentioned going into a Borders, which was not in the Twin Towers, but it was in one of the other buildings. A friend of mine actually saw my book in that Borders bookstore and bought it right before 9/11, and then everything came down. But so that publisher took care of all of that, right? And then when Cajun Mariners came out, I had a publishing offer from a publisher. I had a literary agent at the time, and the agent said, you shouldn't sign that contract. It's a terrible contract. So I didn't. But I felt like I needed to publish the book. So I went ahead and said what I'd never do, and I self-published it. And it did very well. So I sold it myself for years until finally I sold the rights to Skyhorse Press out of New York in 2017, and they've since reprinted it, and they have the rights now. And then The Miracle of St. Genevieve was a book that I really started out. I wanted to do this for my church parish, St. Genevieve, that I grew up in, the school that I attended as a kid. They were having their 50th anniversary, and I wanted to write a history. Well, it kind of took off. Some parishioners took oral histories with me, and we had all this information, so I self-published the book. But it was really to memorialize the history, and I didn't have high expectations of sales. So that was another self-publishing venture. But I will not, I should knock on wood, I will not self-publish again. Either someone's going to want my book like Sleeping Bear and Skyhorse did, or it's not going to be out there. I think self-publishing is too much trouble. And sometimes you self-publish things. Often authors self-publish books that aren't worthy of being published. No one's going to read them. Or very few people will. Your mom, your girlfriend, So that's how that worked.
Rise of the Cajun Mariners. Tell me like a little bit about what's going on there.
Rise of the Cajun Mariners, the race for big oil, chronicles the wild and woolly days of the oil-field boat business. From its beginnings as converted seafood vessels, oyster luggers, shrimp boats, even crab bateaus, to then World War II surplus vessels being used as work boats, to what you see out there today. Now, it really chronicles the time period from, let's say, the late 30s, early 40s to the 80s. And there's some mention of present times in the epilogue.
And where did this interest come from?
Well,
this knowledge.
The knowledge came from a lot of interviews, but the interest came from, I think in part, all of us have gone up and down the bayous around here and seen work boats coming up and down, right? Supply boats, tugboats, crew boats, later the strange-looking lift boats. And we've all heard the stories about how a lot of these men were local Cajuns who spoke only French. Some of them didn't finish high school, and then they became millionaires, right? We've all heard those stories. So I was always interested. But actually, Lee Ogeron was someone in the year 2000 or 2001, I believe, who realized he was the primary owner of Montco. His grandfather and his dad were in the business, but his grandfather had died. His dad, was only going to have so many years. And then all these other men were dying. All these pioneers had either died or they were dying. And so he wanted someone to chronicle the business. So he approached Nichols. And Nichols said, the president of the foundation, or vice president at the time, Boise Bollinger, said, look, I don't have a writer. I don't know a writer at Nichols that'll write the book. But Woody Falgoust, who's a friend, just wrote this book called One Dream, the NFL. I read it. It's a good book. Woody might write it. So I sat down with Lee, and I told him, I said, look, Lee, I'll be honest. I think it's a great story, but I got to tell every side of this business, and that means the dark side too. Because I know the stories about how the men felt like in order to succeed, they had to play some, dubious pool with these all men, and that may mean paying them cash. It may mean giving them gifts like a motorhome, or a college education for their kids. It might mean setting them up with a prostitute. Certainly partying and partying so much that you're cheating on your wife, and all these things that we know that happen because we've all heard the stories. Well, I got to talk about that side of it too. And he said, Lee kind of shrugged and said, well, I think those guys whose wives are still alive, they're not gonna want to talk to you about that. But he said, if their wives are dead, I think they'll tell you all about it. And he was right. That's exactly what happened.
Dude, I am interested. I've been digging into a little bit of like Gulf history. I picked up spearfishing and free diving, and recently I've been on some trips where we dove some ships that have been sunk by German subs right off the coast that no one knows is there, and it was incredible. The first one, I didn't know the history of the boat before. I learned after, but I started digging into it, and I'm on a book right now called The Making of an American. Or it's called The Gulf: The Making of an American Sea, and it's got a little bit of oil history, and it's super interesting. So when I read that, when I looked at the cover of that book, I was piqued.
So
I'm gonna give it a go.
yeah, I appreciate it. I don't know if you ever read that. You said you're in the skin diving, the Hell Divers Rodeo by Humberto Fontova.
I haven't read.
You need to look into that.
haven't.
It's a good one. It's hilarious. I'm not sure what old Humberto's doing these days.
I seen the cover of it.
He's from Metairie, and he was just a funny writer, and these crazy people out there. His buddy skin dive, and he talks all about that. And then Rise of the Cajun Mariners does begin with U-boats out there in the Gulf of Mexico, and one of the main characters, main players in Rise of the Cajun Mariners, Sidney Savoy is driving his father-in-law's old lugger tug, or lugger boat, oyster lugger, as a tugboat for Texaco. He comes up to a rig, and the rig hand's eyes are all big because he just saw a U-boat. He just saw the boat come up with a swastika on its smokestack.
See, there's so much that no one knows about right here.
Crazy.
And you talk about, when's the last time you've been to Fouchon?
Ah, gosh.
Like going out of the
maybe
bayou right there.
Maybe 3 years ago.
That's something I feel anyone from here should see. They should leave that Fouchon Marina and make the drive to the Gulf and just see what Schwess has going on.
Yeah, well, and we get into that a little bit in the book. I mean, Edison Schwess, Gary Schwess, really built that company from the 80s forward, right? When people were starting to tank, he bought a lot of equipment in the 80s. He got that line handling contract for Point Fouchon back in the 80s, and he took off, right? Mm-hmm. And I say he took off like it happened immediately. I mean, he's built an empire. But the book is not really about that. That's another book.
Yeah,
that's another book.
And that's all interesting to me.
And it's kind of global in aspect, because I mean, in the 80s when the oil tanked, like that was a whole. It was terrible for our economy, but why did all of that happen?
Yeah, and they're still kind of
in the Middle East.
They're still kind of innovating. I just seen. You got tariffs and all things happening, and they just partnered with like Hyundai to start building their own freight container ships. Like Schwess is going to be building their own instead of contracting out
for oil or for
imports, freight
yeah,
imports,
yeah.
Which seems pretty major, and it's all right here.
Well, when you think about Gary Schwess bought the Pelicans, right, and then decided he didn't want it later because for whatever reason, and he convinced David Stern, the commissioner of the NBA, to buy it back. I don't know I say buy it back, to buy it. I don't know that in any major sports league that's ever happened. But that shows you what kind of negotiator and businessman Gary is. I mean, he is very, very shrewd, astute. Throw in the adjective, that's positive adjective about business acumen. He's got it in spades, right?
Yeah. Well, good. Let's close it up. Anything else, Bo? Got any more?
I think that's it, but I am going to have to set up a meeting with you after this.
All right, we're ready.
Let's just do it now.
Time to make a will.
Yeah. And I'll take a copy of that book if you got one in the trunk.
Well, we can run one back here, right? I don't know if we have any in the truck, but we have them at the office.
Appreciate you. You've been our go-to guy.
Oh, I have two things to add. Number one, I already own Miracle of St. Genevieve. Now I need to finish reading it. and your dad did my LASIK surgery almost 20 years
I was
ago.
gonna say that had to be a while back.
And you need it redone?
No, still works.
So good.
Yeah.
I wonder if he can, if anyone can fix my color vision. Is that possible?
You colorblind?
Yeah.
Me too.
Severely.
I'm not severely colorblind, but I'm colorblind.
I just took a test for my charter captain license, and the girl laughed at me.
Wow.
And she went and get another test, and then she laughed at me again because I guess that was supposed to be the easier test. But I passed because obviously I can't see colors.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mr. Woody.
Thank you, Shane.
More to come.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, that's it for this episode of the Miracles of Meat podcast. We ask that you share it with at least one person in your life that you think needs to hear it. If you got a little something from it, you got some little goose pimples, or it just gave you some feel goods, send it to someone else. Let them feel that too. And if you loved it, please leave us a 5-star review. That'll really help out. And if you only loved it like 4 stars worth of, please do not leave a review. Same thing with the 1 through 3. Not interested in any of those, only 5 stars. If you have any personal questions or comments about the episode, shoot them over to Bourgeois Meat Market on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll reach back out. And if you have any ideas for any cool future guests, please shoot those over too. We're always interested in hearing who else is out there and what kind of cool stories we might be able to bring into this place. See you next time. Thanks for listening.